Hey everybody, welcome and thank you to the viewers who've actually hung out in the queue to wait for us. This is the man of the hour, or however much time you can spend. This is Greg McConnell, my friend from the Oakland Jobs and Housing Coalition. Greg, great to see you. It's been longer than we've been longer than we should. Yeah.
Yeah, it has been a while. Has been a while.
Longer than we should. Yeah. Hey, so tell my viewers, let me make one small adjustment, getting rid of my voice on the other end here, and there, and now we are back to the Skype overlay, and we are there. Now, for my viewers who may not know, and Oakland's changed a great deal, tell my viewers what the Jobs and Housing Coalition is all about, in case they happen to see that party with Kofi Bonner with all the thousands of people, they didn't know what was going on.
Well, Jobs and Housing is a group of major employers and major developers that come to Oakland. Started way back when Jerry Brown had the 10K plan to bring housing for 10,000 new residents, 6,000 new residents, 10,000 housing units for them. And there were just at that time a few guys who were really committed and trusted Oakland as a good place to invest. Mike Gilmetti was one, John Protopapas was another, and there were a few others. So we brought them together, 10 of them, 10 developers together, and said, look, you need to work as a group, because doing it one by one, they can pick you off, the opposition being the NIMBYs, the community activists. And there are different kinds of community activists. There are community activists that really want to make the community better, and then there's community activists that just block development for their own personal purposes. So we did that. We got the 10 of them together. We formed what was then the Better Housing Coalition. We were very successful in operating at the 30,000 foot line. They hired my firm, the McConnell Group, to do the lobbying and media and public relations, et cetera. A year and a half after that, some major employers like AT&T and PG&E and Comcast observed what we were doing, and they said, you got room for us? We said, of course. So we merged jobs and housing, because we want to attract jobs to the city. And when you do, you attract new people and employees. They need places to live. And in addition, Oakland residents needed new and better housing than they had. So we've been doing that, 15 years now, something like that. And, we do a lot of, we do a lot of trying to hype the city, trying to promote the city, trying to tell people there's a good place to live, a good place to work, a good place to invest. And we take on issues that would hurt that. I mean, we had a big crime wave a few years ago, so we took on the issue of getting more police. We've had some turnover in government with one-term mayors and what have you, and so we engaged in political activity. We now have an affordable housing crisis that everybody in the nation, every big city in the nation has, and we're taking the lead on trying to produce as much housing as we can to stave that off.
Tell us about the Oakland Bulk and Oversized Terminal project and what the Jobs and Housing Coalition's position is on it.
Well, the Oakland terminal that you just mentioned is a multi-commodity logistics terminal that is going to ship product from California, city of Oakland, all over the world. It will employ hundreds of people, and it will produce hundreds of millions of dollars in tax revenues, et cetera, over time for the city, revenues that could be used for a variety of things like homelessness, social safety net, et cetera. But importantly, it's also something that's going to have direct benefit to the communities of West Oakland and East Oakland, communities primarily of color, who have not been able to benefit as much from all of the development and the good things that have happened in Oakland, as have others. A controversy has to do with the fact that the terminal will, in addition to other products, ship coal. And the city approved that use. They did that years ago. And we have written contracts that show that. And then suddenly, when they were asking for the permits to build the facility, the city said, no, we're not going to let coal get shipped through Oakland. Well, the irony of that is that coal has been shipped through Oakland for a long time. Weekly, coal is shipped through Oakland 3 to 5 times a week. They tried to say that that wasn't true, so we had to actually literally take pictures of the trains, and without that did not have the covered cars that this new facility will propose. And so they created a ruckus. They created a so-called hearing on the safety of coal. That hearing concluded that coal was unsafe, that they could shut down any or deny the whole logistics center for that one product. The owner of the land, who had been given approval by the city to ship those products, filed a suit in federal court. Federal judge looked at the record that the city had created and said, this so-called hearing, in my words, this so-called hearing was a sham. You did not prove that coal is dangerous. You cannot prove that coal is dangerous. Coal is shipped all over the country. And in this instance, the way the coal is going to be shipped is going to be shipped in covered cars, deposited into storage facilities that prevent any air leakage. In fact, what I like to tell people is that if coal is done this way, which we're calling the Oakland Protocol, if it's done this way, you won't see it, you won't smell it, you won't inhale it. For all intents and purposes, you won't even know that it exists.
Let me ask you, why is it that people attach the whole coal issue to just fossil fuels? Because most coal is used with iron ore to make steel, and steel is used to make buildings around the world. So where did the disconnect come in?
I think that what happens is that people look at the old pictures of coal miners coming up out of the ground with all of the dust and black from the coal on their face. They know that there has been health problems in the past with that approach. They said that coal dust would be on cars and you could, write your name and, in the dust from the coal. That is so far not the case anymore. It's incredible. In Japan, for example, is a part of the Paris Climate Accord. They abandoned their nuclear facilities. They're building coal terminals that are going to burn coal to make gas. And they have shown the people in Paris in the Climate Accord that they're going to be using Utah high, very clean coal. And they will still be compliant with the Paris Climate Accord when they burn the coal in these facilities that they are developing. So, it's like, God, remember the old days, man, you had a car, and when you first turned it on, it belched, and all of that black soot and all of that stuff came out.
Yeah.
When was the last time I saw a car do that?
Oh, I can tell you, 1977.
Right. So to have an image of what existed in the past and to try to apply that to the present and to the future is just misleading. And again, coal is shipped all over the world. It's shipped all over the United States. Imagine if every city in the country could say there are certain products that they would not want shipped through their city. Try to get anything from California to New York, with every city along the way being able to dictate what can and cannot go through that. Federal government knows that. We've passed laws that have been on the book and enforced regularly that you just can't interfere with the shipment in interstate commerce.
Tell my viewers also, from your view, where is Oakland in terms of replacing jobs that were lost due to plant closures and base closures? Bless you.
You raise a good question, because there are a lot of jobs in Oakland, new jobs, and a lot of those are tech jobs. We're bringing the tech people. The spillover from San Jose, the spillover from San Francisco has brought new tech jobs here in Oakland and office jobs. Square is coming to town, bringing 3,000 or so, some large number of employees. Blue Cross Blue Shield, etc. But not everybody is a tech person, and not everybody has an interest in that, or it's just not in their wheelhouse. Oakland historically has had shipping. It has had manufacturing jobs. It attracted people from the South up into Oakland, into the Bay Area, into the Oakland Army base to build ships. So we had a rich history of having that kind of employment, that kind of influx of folks. But as the things have changed, people have started looking like they're not as interested in industrial jobs, manufacturing jobs, jobs that people can have. If we continue to shut down all those kinds of employment activities in favor of just one segment, we're going to have gentrification on steroids. We're going to have Black people who may not be interested in those things living on the streets as we do. Mm-hmm. And we need to protect that environment, need to protect those jobs. There are, for your viewers who are familiar with Oakland, the San Leandro corridor has the ABI foundry. It has several light manufacturing jobs and steel recycling jobs, etc. It's crucial that those stay available to Oakland workers. And this logistics terminal, it's crucial that it can be built because it will give life to that kind of employment too.
Hey, we're on with Greg McConnell, the Executive Director of the Oakland Jobs and Housing Coalition. I want to thank those who are chimed in. If you have a question, just type it in the chat area on the side. Erin Michelle Moriarty just simply responded with a heart, which means she loves you, Greg. You have a fan. So
thank you.
He says thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Tell my viewers as well, from your point of view, how we got to this point where a city that was once really very good at economic development into job creation and job training seems to have, in my words, forgotten about it, or at least thinks it's not sexy anymore.
Well, there's a lot of things I think that have contributed to that, but frankly, I just don't see the great emphasis on job development, economic development, and job growth and attraction of employers and companies that perhaps used to happen before. One of the offshoots of the Jobs and Housing Coalition was the creation of the Open Jobs Foundation, because we wanted to make sure that there were training activities that would take place that could help people learn the jobs that exist today and participate in those jobs. And a lot of that is construction, so we aggregated funds from our member developers saying, look, make a community contribution, make a community benefit by giving money to the Open Jobs Foundation. Then we will sort out job training programs that really work, because there's a lot that don't. But we gave money to groups like the Cypress Mandela, the Men of Valor, and other groups as well. What we found out, though, was that at some point, we could get people into the construction industry, but not everybody's, as I say, I don't want to say it like they can't do it as though they're deficient. It's just not their thing. I could not be a doctor if I wanted to. I could not be a carpenter if I wanted to. I need a consultant to change a light bulb. People have to do what they can do. But what we found out was that there's a vast number of people who would be better suited working in other kinds of jobs. So then we started saying, okay, what is the city doing to attract those jobs? What is the city doing to retain the jobs that they currently have? What threats exist to the industrial jobs and what have you? I mean, Cannabis came in, for example, and boom, they took up all the warehouse space in the city. Now, I'm not criticizing cannabis. I'm just saying that is a fact. And as a result of that, what happens to all of those other jobs that people could get? So, no, I think your question is germane and important. I don't know that the city is doing as much as it can do or needs to do to foster economic development. Job development is what I'm talking about.
I ask also because I remember that there was a comment by one elected official in response to what happened to our job training. Well, you can call Kiva or you can sign up with Kiva and they will give you the assistance you need. But I did some digging and discovered that Kiva has actually been accused of favoring people who are female and light-skinned. So it sounds like the city has almost seceded its work in this area. Am I wrong?
Well, I'll put it to you like this. I don't even know who Kiva is, and I think I know everything about Oakland. But no, I tell you, there's some excellent programs that are doing really good work. I think that Art Shank's Cypress Mandela program is so awe-inspiring when you go there and you see how these guys are helping to build lives. I mean, they spend weeks they spend a great deal of time on life skill training before they get into the construction work, because they want to make sure that these people have an opportunity to grow as men and women. Know that when the job says it starts at 8 o'clock in the morning, that does not mean 11:15. And you don't come in there with your pants falling all over you. You look people in the eye, give them a firm handshake. And, I went to their presentation, their graduation, and gave a speech. And the thing that I was trying to figure out, what do I say? And then as I looked out over the sea of about 50 people who were graduating that day, I said, you know what? This program not only changed your lives, this program changes lives for future generations. You are intergenerational change right here and right now. And you can just see the pride that they had in that. So that works. There are other programs that I can point to, but there's not enough. Mm-hmm. Because if there were enough, you wouldn't see the young men and women sitting around in downtown, right in front of City Hall, smoking blunts all day long.
On that note, too, could you talk about something that I'm particularly proud of? And that's, I want to just give a shout out to Phil Tagami, because I've known Phil since 1990. And in terms of giving particularly young black men a shot in jobs, I think he's done an outstanding job. He's the developer here, and I don't think he gets the credit he deserves.
No, he doesn't. And I'll tell you what. So Oakland has a local hire policy, and it says you must take good faith efforts to achieve a certain percentage of hire. On the Oakland Army base, I think that's 50% local hire. I represent major businesses in Oakland. I don't know that most of those companies get that done, that they actually meet those goals. And Phil Tagami is the only one that I have seen. Now, I'm not saying he's the only one who's done it. Mm-hmm. He's the only one that I have seen who has received a letter from the city of Oakland saying, congratulations, you met your obligation. And I think it says you exceeded it. I don't want to misquote, but I know it said you met it. Mm-hmm. What's the importance of that? What Phil had to do to get to that point was to hire people just to monitor who was coming to work every day. He had employees just there checking off the boxes to make sure. It was his level of commitment to get that done. He could have done what many other people have done and just said, hey, I did some work fairs, I did some announcements. I mean, if the people don't show up, what can I do? No, he got out in the community and got it done. And Phil's done a lot of, he's taking a lot of heat over this coal thing. But you got to remember that Phil is the one who did the Fox Theater. He's the one who did the Rotunda. He has contributed so much to this community. Yet on this coal thing, there are people in his community who attack him and his family. Or even at the school, some of his kids have been, accosted. You know, your dad's going to kill the planet, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. No, it's a travesty. He's a good man.
You know, I have to say this because I haven't written about it yet, but I will. I got a call from a city staffer who told me that Doug Cole, who worked on this, said that the whole thing, Doug Cole was a project manager for the Oakland Army Base redevelopment, and on the Oakland Oversized terminal project before he left the city of Oakland. But Doug told my source that he described it as a shit show, and that the city knew about not just coal, and they knew that was a mix of commodities from the start, and yet it's all been this sham that they're selling, and they're putting it on Phil. Why do you think the city, and what is driving the city to do this? Because there's ample evidence they're doing this everywhere. I mean, everywhere. Even people, city staffers are calling me without my calling them first, calling me and letting me know that. Okay.
Well, that is true. I mean, I've seen documentation from the city where they said that we are going to enter into an agreement for a multi-commodity terminal, and those kinds of terminals ship a variety of things, and they talk about soda ash, lumber, timber, and coal. For them to come along in 2017, 2018 to say, we never agreed that you could ship coal, or never knew that that would be one of the commodities that would be shipped, is just flatly untrue. I think it is the time and day and age in which we live, and people are concerned about climate change and global issues, etc. And I am too. I got grandchildren. I want to grow up in a clean environment. But what I don't hear being said truthfully and honestly is show the proof that this coal terminal would damage or hurt anybody. In fact, failure to build it would damage and hurt people. There are people in the African American community in the West Oakland, near the area where the terminal will be built, who have developed asthma and breathing problems because they had all of the trucks spewing out pollution over the years. Now they've cleaned that up a bit. But the other thing about this terminal is that that's going to help clean it up even more, because instead of having all these trucks waiting in lines to pick up products or to drop off products, he's building a rail system straight into the Army base, which will be used to load and unload ships. I mean, if you could really get the truth and the information out, people would say this is a sham. I'll be brief on this because I'm talking long, but I went and talked to, I was having dinner at a restaurant actually it's in Emeryville, but it's a famous football player. I won't use his name yet. But a famous football player owns the restaurant. And we were sitting there talking about things, and a group of 5 guys from off the street came in, just regular Oakland guys. No axe to grind, no politics, no nothing. And one of the football players asked them, hey, what do you think about city government? Do you think that it's doing anything good for you? Hell no was the answer. And as they continued to talk, I saw the anger that they had. I mean, they said, we don't wake up in the morning and worry about what's going to happen in the world. We wake up in the morning worried about all of the homeless people, many of whom are black.
Yep.
And we wake up worried about, are we going to be amongst them? Is that our future? Or are there other opportunities? And they just say that, the city of Oakland, not all people in the city of Oakland. I think you've got a good council member from that district. But not, and certainly not all of the people have turned their backs on it, but too many have glommed onto this briny new object, the millionaires or billionaires who talk about wonderful things and socialism and this, that, and the other. It's amazing. They became billionaires and now they want to contribute to socialism. I don't buy that for a minute. But you know what I'm talking about. So I think some of the politicians gravitate towards them, worry about what they care about. They care about the worldview, the big problems of the day in the sky and what have you. In the meantime, the people who live day by day walk through homelessness, walk through joblessness, walk through worry and anxiety. I went to a program, and cut me off if I'm speaking too much.
No, this is your platform.
All right. So I went to there's a program at McConnell High School.
FYI, I never cut off anybody. They cut me off. They say
right.
I'm done, Zennie, but so this is your platform.
There's a program at McConnell High School. It's called SPAT. Student athlete something. Essentially what has happened is that the coach, Peters of the football team, has said, if you want to play football, you got to go to after school training. And then they expanded it out to basketball and anything else. By the way, McConnell has won the state championship, I think 3 years in a row. And it's in a hard part of town. It's, difficult. But that program has students who from 9th grade to 12th grade have a 92% retention rate. And of those who graduated last year, 96% participated in this program, going on to secondary education, college. And I said to myself, how can they do that and so many other things are failing? I called the president of the school board and I said, hey, James, do you know about the SPEC program with McConnell? He said, yeah, it's a wonderful program. It's really doing well. And I said, it doesn't cost any money. He says, yeah, I know. $120,000 a year they're doing this. $120,000 a year they're doing this. But James, I heard that you were paying half of that, $60,000, you, Oakland Unified School District, and you cut that off. Well, we're having budget concerns. James, your retention rate and graduation rate from Oakland public schools is down 50% or something like that. Here's a program in one of the poorest parts of Oakland that has a 92% retention rate. You ought to be taking that program and running with it. But let me just say this also. On the way back from a visit to McConnell's, I was riding down San Pablo Avenue, and I saw the homeless encampments, and I saw the needles on the street, and I saw all of the things that you see with that. And then I saw these 3 young ladies who looked like they were leaving school, and they were walking through that. And I said to myself, God, it must be difficult to continue to have confidence that you can have a future when you walk through these encampments and all, and you see people who look exactly like you. Does that give you a worldview that you're destined for that? So,
great point.
That's my soapbox. I think that there's a lot of good things going on in town. There's a lot of good people trying to make things happen. There could be more of it if we focus our attention on it and decided to do it. But we're off catching things like, what's going to happen in China if we export coal. We can't even prove that it's dangerous.
Do people, you made a comment about socialism, and I just would like your take on this with respect to the OBOT project and our economic change. Richard, I'll ask this by way of an encounter. I interviewed Richard Dreyfuss about, I would say 10 years ago, roughly. And he said to me that, it's on video here on Zennie62, he said that his biggest concern, this was 10 years ago, all right, was that we stopped teaching civics. And he started a foundation to generate more investment and more awareness of the need to teach civics, government in school. And I was thinking about how I got not only got civics, we had Schoolhouse Rock and how to write a bill and all of this stuff. Now we have a group of people that they seem to have forgotten how to turn the wheels of government in America to make change, to direct spending in an area. The Democratic Socialists of America, for example, I have a lot of friends who are involved in it, but they say, oh, you know, we we look at around the world and all these great programs that are being done in socialist countries. But a socialist country is China, and you look at the list of them, you know, and they're not, you know, social. And I say, wait a minute, that's a communist country.
Well, let's
Greg,
just start with Venezuela.
Yeah, with Venezuela. My question to you is this misunderstanding of the world, is that our fault in terms of not funding education? And is that impacting the Oakland Bulk and Oversized Terminal project and all this misinformation that's out there? I'm just curious to know what you think, you know?
My thoughts are a little different on it. You know, I mean, I'm certain that people do need to know their civic lessons, and they do need to know their history, because if you don't, what's the old saying?
You're doomed to repeat it.
Right. But these days, I heard a guy on TV say it that was it was so truthful and honest and shocking to me that I said, why did I think of that? These days, when the kids go out and play soccer, everybody gets a trophy. Everybody wins. Nobody, they do not, you know, we don't promote success. We don't promote effort and achievement if everybody gets a trophy. And if all of those kids who've been playing soccer for the last 2 decades grow up and become adults, they all won a trophy then too. Think about this. When we were coming up, we said that a black man or woman had to be twice as good as a white competitor in order to get the job.
Right.
And some people said, boy, isn't that unfair? Well, maybe it was, but our parents taught us, go be 3 times as good.
Right. Absolutely.
What occurred is that there was growth and development and change. And if we get to the point where, and it's not just blacks and whites, I mean, people criticize the Asian family for being too insistent upon their kids, you know, achieving. No, I think that we got that wrong. I think that we took a turn somewhere along the history, somewhere during the civil rights movements and what have you, where we said you don't have to put out the effort that you used to before. And I think that has really been a great part of our demise.
You think we could turn it around?
Well, yeah, we can. You know, I think that's what they try to do at Cypress Mandel. I think that's what they try to do at SPAT. Mm-hmm. That's what I do, you know, with my kids. I mean, you know, I was able to help my kids each buy a home. Mm-hmm. My parents never could help me do that. There was a sense of pride in that. But that's why I bust my butt every day to do what I can as best as well as I can. And I just think that we need to instill that kind of ethic in people again. We need to say that. You know?
How you doing on time? I got one more question if I'd let you go, but how you doing on time?
You got one more question.
Cool. All right, cool. I'll take it. Fred Blackwell, still a good friend of mine, and he owes me a bourbon, said to me on August 14th of 2012, on video on Zennie62, he said that the Oakland Bulk and Oversized Terminal was a gift to the environmental community. He was Director of Economic Development at the time. Now he's CEO of the San Francisco Foundation. He's gone. Is that fact that he's gone and the fact that we've had a dramatic turnover since the passage of Measure X, which gave us a strong mayor system, in a dramatic turnover for the most part in who the chief administrative officer was, since that time in 1998, and it took effect in 2001. But is that the reason? Do we have an institutional memory loss that's created the foundation for this tying up in court that Phil and developers have experienced with OBOT?
Well, I do think that we have suffered institutional memory loss. There are a lot of people who were players and participants in these things when they were being conceived and when they were being developed. And of course, as we now see, they take decades, a decade or sometimes decades, to get to the point of start. And then those people are no longer present and no longer here, and the new people think that they can rewrite the rules of the game. They can change things that were agreed upon previously, and it's unfair, but it's also illegal. Let me close with this by way of example. The city, the city of Oakland had a vote on parcel tax. It was called Measure AA.
Mm-hmm.
And Measure AA was to fund childhood programs. And the city attorney said you need a 2/3 vote for that. They had the election. They didn't get 2/3. No short. Amazingly, the city council said, oh, it's still won. They literally changed the rules from a 2/3 vote to a majority vote. We're suing them, we're gonna win, we're gonna turn that back. But that kind of shows you that there's been something dramatic that has shifted in this city.
Yeah.
When you can put a ballot measure on, have your city attorney give an analysis that it takes a 2/3 vote, and then it doesn't get a 2/3 vote, and you say to hell with it, it passed anyway. It is also amazing that the Jobs and Housing Coalition is the lead plaintiff in the lawsuit to overturn that. And guess who our biggest ally is?
Who's that?
Legal women voters. And imagine today,
Wow.
a big business group and the legal women voters come together to say this is wrong. So there are things that need to be corrected.
And can you remember a time in Oakland where any elected official has ever challenged an outcome that fell short? Because I can't. I know there have been some that have fallen short in terms of getting 2/3 vote.
Well, that's amazing too, because when we filed our lawsuit, we specifically said we want everybody to know that we are not saying that we're opposed to childhood education. We're opposed to funding it. Many of our members have contributed millions to the Promise Fund, which is an initiative of the mayor.
Mm-hmm.
Yet we had a unanimous vote to challenge this lawsuit. I can't remember that this ever happened before. And the one person who stood up and said, this is not right, I'm not going to support it, was Lynette McElhaney, who's a city council member.
That's right, yeah.
West Oakland, and where the Army base is going to be.
Yep.
Everybody that I described this to just thinks it's outrageous. So something's wrong, and I hope that our city council can turn this around. I hope that our administrators can turn that around. I hope that our economic development department can turn it around and start getting more emphasis on job creation, job development. I hope that we can work together as a community to try to address the homeless problem and the kids walking to school through those encampments. I just think that we need to do more as a community to try to make this right. One of the things that we need to do is we need to abide by the law. We need to, Phil's going to spend a lot of money in litigation. It's unfortunate because that money could go to community benefits, but it will get done.
Hey, so tell people how they can find your website in closing if they want to join the Oakland Jobs and Housing Coalition.
Well, I'll tell you, our website is jobsandhousing.com.
Mm-hmm.
We have a very limited membership, but we're always welcome to talk to people about ideas and what have you. You can get all the contact information from me, on me and my staff through that.
Hey, stick around. Don't go anywhere, Greg. But folks, thank you for tuning in. And Erin, thank you. She gave you a big